Everyone dreams of owning a home in Vancouver, but some properties can quietly drain your wallet, your time, and your sanity. So today we're going to break down the types of homes you should never buy in Metro Vancouver and what you should be looking for instead. In Vancouver's market, where average detached homes push past 2 million on average, buying the wrong type of house can be a six-figure mistake and sometimes even more. So some properties look fine at first glance, but behind the walls in the legal paperwork, the location, the risks can actually be huge. And a lot of people think any house in Vancouver is a ticket to long-term wealth, but not all houses appreciate equally, and some carry risks that can stall or even reverse your financial gains. So we'll get into 5 different houses you should never buy in Metro Vancouver. House number 1. Homes with major structural issues. In Vancouver, older detached homes, especially pre-1970s, can hide serious problems. Foundation cracks, water damage, knob and tube wiring, or oil tanks buried underground. Fixing these things aren't just costly, it can kill your financing options because banks may not lend on unsafe or uninsured homes. And then a lot of these issues can be very well hidden, like oil tanks. So it's very important to work with a realtor that knows the areas, knows signs that a oil tank could be hidden potentially underground. An inspector can help identify whether or not the electrical or the structural portions of the home are up to spec or need to be repaired. So the buyer takeaway for this one is always get a full home inspection and then budget for remediation. So important. If remediation costs hit 6 figures, you're probably not buying a home, you're buying a whole project. All right, house type number 2, houses on problem lots. Well, not all land is equal. Some homes in Burnaby and North Vancouver sit on steep slopes that are prone to erosion. Others in Richmond or in Delta are on like peat soil that sinks over time, which could lead to cracked driveways and tilted foundations. And then there's flood risk. So areas near the Fraser River, for example, face higher insurance premiums and limit coverage. So as you can see, it doesn't matter whether you're purchasing up on the mountain or close to the water or in between, any home can come with a variety of issues. And in Metro Vancouver, a lot of times the lot value way outweighs the value of the property. So you may fall in love with the home, but really you're buying the land itself. So make sure that your investment is protected. You're buying a good piece of land. You're working with the pros to do all the right due diligence. So the buyer takeaway for this one is location risks translates to insurance risks and higher costs every year. You're not just buying a house, you're buying the ground that it sits on. And if you're looking for long-term appreciation, this is the thing that you need to take into account. So house type number 3, homes with hidden legal issues or title issues. So in Vancouver, some houses come with restrictive covenants, easements, or even unpermitted additions. And that extra rental suite, well, if it's not legal, you could be forced to remove it or face fines. And then there are title disputes or unclear property lines that can also tie you up in legal battles. So the main thing is you want to look at the legal and the title. You don't want to be caught up or inherit any of these types of issues that may affect your use or enjoyment of the property you just spent a fortune on. A cheap purchase price means nothing if you can't use the home as intended. So always have a professional review title and permits with a lawyer before closing. You can also access a lot of these documents on the city website, so make sure you're working with a realtor that is aware of that so that you can avoid these types of issues on closing and protect your wealth and assets. So house type number 4 is houses with strata nightmares. So townhouses and bare land stratas and condos, they all seem like a good option, especially because a lot of the maintenance is being looked after by the strata, and you can relatively enjoy the property without looking after any of the big ticket items like replacing a fence or a roof. But think about it like this. You need to watch out for some strata corporations that have massive special levies for repairs. Think like $40,000+ per unit for things like a new roof, membrane, so any type of water ingress, that type of repairs can get very expensive. Repiping, rewiring, main screen that needs to be done. All of these things can cost you an extreme amount of money. And even worse so is if you're not aware that these are coming up, you don't budget for it, or you overpay for a property, you're going to be out a lot of money and really dig deep into your savings. And then some buyers will say, well, the strata has savings, right? That's what we call the CRF, the Contingency Reserve Fund. Well, you want to make sure that the reserve fund is not underfunded, because you're then buying into debt and you're inheriting all of the Stratus debt, which eventually you'll have to pay for through a special levy. So the key takeaway here for buyers is read the strata minutes. If you see repeat mentions of water ingress, roof issues, or no money in the contingency, that is a major red flag. If you have access to engineering reports or depreciation reports, review them or have your realtor review them, because this will fully assess the strata's maintenance of the building's condition, and then also any major repairs that are coming up that a buyer would need to budget for. And then lastly, house type number 5 is overpriced teardowns. For example, many Vancouver listings market a 1950s bungalow as land value only, but the problem, if the city zoning or lots limit the future redevelopment of this property. And house type number 5 that you should avoid are overpriced teardowns. A lot of homes in Vancouver, especially older ones, can be listed as development potential or builder lots, but you need to know whether or not the city zoning or bylaws limit the size of future redevelopment or what you can even build in the home. You may pay millions for land you can't actually maximize, therefore losing out on that huge investment you probably paid to buy a lot here in Vancouver. So whether you're trying to redevelop or you have specific use for the land, you need to make sure that you are reviewing the city's bylaws and make sure that this lot or parcel of land is actually eligible for what you want to do or build on the property. Always check zoning, redevelopment rules. Otherwise, you're just paying for an old shack on a property. So those are the 5 housing types. There are still some hidden risks that I didn't mention. So first of all, there's financing. Banks may refuse to lend on homes with major defects. Then you have insurance. Homes on floodplains or old wiring can be uninsurable. Poly B is another big one. So if you have great piping in your home, you may be paying insurance premiums or may not get insurance at all. Then there is the assignment market. So pre-sale houses are marketed as quick flips, but can leave you stuck if demand drops. And right now in this market, the demand for assignments has definitely dropped, and there are a lot of distressed sellers that are selling their assignments, their pre-sale units right now before they're completed. So that's a hint if you're a buyer looking for a cheap brand new unit. This is a really good time. And then lastly are renovation delays. So the City of Vancouver permits can take 12 to 18 months, leaving your property unlivable, meaning that you're gonna have to carry out all of these holding costs for that long, meaning things can get much more expensive and take way longer than you initially expect. So you always wanna make sure that you can get the permit, zoning, and review strata property bylaws with a professional. When it comes to tax issues, teardowns may trigger higher property transfer tax. It's called new build potential. There is, what else? There's policy. So new density zoning in Vancouver's multiplex rules means that, not all lots are going to be equal. Some are winners and some you can be stuck with. So be sure you're kept up to date with the new rules. Specifically, look up Bill 44 and Bill 47 if you're planning to build some multiplex or higher density residential units. And then in Vancouver, one of the big things driving the market is psychology. The fear of missing out, FOMO. This drives buyers into bad deals. So slow down. The market is competitive, but mistakes can cost way more than just waiting. Housing types that you shouldn't buy. What about the ones that you should buy? Well, here are 5 that you should buy. I'll give a quick version of these. Well-maintained homes with solid bones. Example, a 1980s or 90s build in East Van or Burnaby with updated roofs, windows, wiring, and plumbing. These types of homes can have lower surprise costs, way easier financing, and then better resale as well, because a lot of the big ticket items have already been looked after. Number 2, homes on stable, low risk land. So properties in higher ground areas of Coquitlam or New Westminster outside of flood zones are a really good example. I love a lot of areas of Burnaby and East Van where things are pretty stable. There's no mountains and there's no rivers, so you can just have a good property in a great suburban neighborhood. One thing I didn't mention before is keep an eye on amenities that could increase the value of the home. So if you have really good school catchment, or if you have a brand new recreation center or near a park, those could be big plus if you're targeting things like families. Number 3 is homes with legal rental potential. So houses with city approved basement suites or laneway homes, accessory dwelling units that are approved by the city, these provide extra income stream, better long-term appreciation, and then buyers don't need to worry about extra fees or permits or things not being built the way that they should be. Number 4 is stratas with healthy financials, townhouses with transparent, well-funded contingency reserves. Same things with condos. They got a lot of money in the reserves. And you can see that they're keeping up with the maintenance. There's not a long history of very large special levies, which means that they're using their budgeting correctly. Things are getting repaired, and they're not like really heavily taking money from the owners. This is all a really good sign because it is way more predictable when it comes to looking after your costs. And then lastly, number 5, properties aligned with the new zoning bylaws. Review the rules. A lot of the cities are updating their bylaws and their OCPs. They have really clear rules on what they can and can't do with specific parcels of land. So be sure to review those. And this is not just for people that are looking to build right now. This future redevelopment potential is so important for appreciation and value down the road. So even if you're not building today, be sure to review these things. So then in conclusion, in Vancouver, not every house is a good buy. The wrong one can drain your savings while the right one can set you up for long-term stability and growth. So always check the bones, the land, the paperwork, and future zoning. And remember, don't just buy the house, buy the right house. Subscribe. We break down Vancouver real estate every single week so you don't make expensive mistakes. So I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.